the Base app or dial star 218 star 88 hash for...
It is the second last day of October 2024. Today, 30th of Wednesday, 30th. One more day and October will be done. 56 days to Christmas. So the countdown continues.
I was actually waiting. I was like, I'm waiting for the countdown, Fred.
Karibu sana. This is the Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indimuli.
My name is Shiksha Arora. Of course, if you've just joined us, you can find us online on Facebook, on YouTube as well. That's at TV47 Kenya, at Shiksha Arora, and at Fred Indimuli on social media. If you would like to link up with us, let us know where you're watching from this very fine morning.
All right. And of course, even as we continue taking a look at the local headlines and the dailies, which we will do, by the way, a lot more is happening around the globe. It's exactly 6 days to the U.S. election. What's the latest?
Absolutely. And of course, as we talk about the U.S. election, well, Kamala Harris currently holds a narrow lead in the national polls with a 1.4% point advantage. By the way, Fred, she's actually down from a 1.7%, so there's a slight dip of 0.3. So let's see how this plays out in the future.
This one is too tight. It is what they call neck and neck.
Absolutely.
All right. So back home, a lot more is happening in the courts with DP Gachagua fighting for his life. This is the impeached deputy president fighting for his life. But if we look at the dailies, a lot more is being talked about. The controversy surrounding the outrage of our police using phone data to spy on people continues, and we'll be looking at that and a lot more. And this is a panel we'll be talking to today. David Kiplagat, MP Soi, Beatrice Salachi, MP Dagoretti North, and Joshua Kipto, an advocate of the High Court. Do stand by for that conversation. After that,
absolutely. We'll also be talking to lots of people regarding the sponsors era. The question is love or money? Quite an interesting one there. We have an entire panel there comprising of 8 very talented young individuals.
Yes, a very interesting headline here.
Yes.
And this discussion, I'm sure many people have had it, especially online. And there seems to be a general acceptance that this is the way to go, or at least this is what most young people are doing. It is a sponsors era. Money rules.
Money rules.
What do you think? All right, after that, it is Tasty Wednesday.
That's
Chef Brian.
Chef Brian, who is going to be bringing to us a tasty meal indeed. So watch out for that from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here, only on TV47. This is the Morning Cafe show. Moving on, let's just take a look at the dailies.
A quick look at the main headlines. A long sentence here on the Star, quoting Gema why Kalonzo is targeting rebels. The Star continues looking at the consequences of that impeachment of the deputy president.
On the People Daily, Riggy G, hands on thin thread. And of course, this is something that we have seen over the past few weeks. People Daily still focusing on Riggy G, of course.
The Daily Nation continues with this story on the outrage of a police phone spying expose. Telcos have been helping to cover up abductions, killings committed by rogue agencies. Now, this one has caused quite an uproar among Kenyans, and the discussion continues.
You're out. DP told as he goes for Ruto, a picture there from the proceedings yesterday, of course, and that is from the Standard.
All right. Taifa Leo, sema Nhif ni mateso vilio. Wagonjwa hangaika baada ya Nhif kukosa kufanya kazi kwenye hospitali ya Kenyatta na ile ya QATAR. Tutarejea kuangazia zaidi masuala ya afya na the continued transition to Nhif.
On the Business Daily, why CA gave Safaricom Airtel temporary licenses. Of course, just yesterday we saw that Airtel's license was extended by 2 years after they had a pending almost 1.3 billion shillings, of course, that they owed. And this is something that we're going to be looking at in detail as well on the Business Daily. Let's
cross the border and get into Uganda. They continue with their coffee discussions, and today they say coffee doesn't lie. I like that line. So yes, the collapse of the coffee sector far away in Brazil may have hurt the South American country's economy that boasts the global coffee market for decades. But it was a blessing in disguise for farmers elsewhere. And in this second installment of the series, The Coffee Boom, this is in Uganda. In Kenya, things could be different.
Yes.
This paper profiles farmers whose dreams have come true thanks to the bumper coffee sales. And they've covered this story about coffee on pages 3, 4, 5, and 6. This goes to show you just how important this story is.
Quite a big one.
And this is the kind of headline that you would wish for Kenya, that we talk positively about bumper harvest, how farmers are actually benefiting. Coffee doesn't lie.
Some good news would be great.
They say,
front page.
Yes, Zimbabwe has no regrets in farming. This a farmer was giving his experience, and he's standing in front of a very magnificent building which is his home, and all this from farming coffee.
Wow, that is quite a story there, a success story indeed.
Elsewhere in Ntale has built schools 95 schools from coffee sales.
Wow.
Yeah? In Kenya nyinyi munalia tu kilio in Uganda, and these are positive stories when it comes to Uganda, which is something very beautiful.
All right, and of course there we see that is
the new vision.
Yes, S4 marks panic as deadline expires, and Uganda's best midwives 2024 honored. Yet again, positive news. Positive
stories on the front page, and you'll notice this with Uganda especially.
Yes.
They don't put a lot of negative news on the front pages.
Absolutely. Indimuli, when is the last time you've heard of a midwife in Kenya being honored or awarded or appreciated?
Or even a teacher or a doctor.
Or a nurse as well.
Or even a journalist. Even journalists can be honored.
Even a lawyer.
In Uganda, they go as far as honoring midwives.
That's amazing.
This is beautiful in Uganda. Meanwhile, Museveni wants scientists of early retirement. Wanaambiwa wasiretire, kaeni mfanye kazi. Iko shida gani? Mnaenda nyumbani kufanya nini?
But early for Museveni is very subjective. You know, early for him is not early for the rest of us in the world.
But as Uganda, let's cross over to Tanzania, see what's a big headline there. Buriani Generali David Musuguri, hii ni gazeti la Mwananchi, wanasema uso wa chuma ni jina alilopewa wakati akiongoza vita vya Kagera. Taarifa kifo chake yaleta simanzi. Rais Samia Jakaya Kikwete wamkumbuka kwa utendaji uliotukuka. You know, some of these words I just hear when people are praying. In Kenya, some people pray and use very fine Swahili, but when they're speaking, they can't. So, maswala ya kutukuka.
That last word, uliotukuka.
Kwa utendaji uliotukuka, uliosifika.
Wow.
Uliotukuka. Huyu jamaa alikuwa na miaka 104. Amefariki akiwa na umri huo, miaka 104.
He was born in 1920.
Wow. How many people have you seen who've lived this long?
Past 100. In Kenya, not many.
Well, habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Taarifa zingine pale ufaulu sayansi, hisabati is mathematics.
Yes.
Sayansi, hisabati, Kiingereza wa paa la 7. So they're talking about grade 7. If you read this and you look at it on face value, you may not understand what they're talking about. Kwingineko, Boniai aitwa polisi akawape nywila yake.
Nywila.
Yene ngumu. Hatutaendelea na haya, tuangazie masuala ya Kiingereza.
Kamusi.
But at least we have the translation for that hisabati thing. Math, science, English pass rates up in standard 7 exams. So angesema tu hivi.
Again, a positive story there from Tanzania, which is brilliant.
Yes. Things are just improving, going up, and they say there has been a notable improvement in performance in usually troublesome subjects for candidates.
Another story right there about gold. A few weeks ago, Fred and Muli, this is something that we saw them talking about gold. And yet again, government's plea as gold rises to a new record. Of course, there's increased production for the country, and they will be benefiting because of the global prices, which have risen by more than 60%.
And it makes me feel sad when I'm looking at all our local dailies here, and you'll struggle to find even a single positive story on the front page.
Yeah.
Here, gold prices are rising to new records.
Education seems
They're
to be
improving
booming.
their mathematics and English performance and science.
Coffee sales in Uganda seems to be on an all-time high.
They're honoring a war hero, ex-CDF Musunguri, who died at 104. Kwani Kenya kunanga. Anyway, those are the dailies across the region.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the weather situation back home. See if at all there's any positive vibes.
I definitely feel like the weather seems to be promising this week because we've seen lots of sunshine and holiday weather is coming into Nairobi slowly.
But many people are complaining that sleeping at night has become a bit
I
problematic.
agree.
It's
And the
too-
mosquitoes as well.
Mosquitoes.
They seem to be mutating.
Or because of the warm weather
Yes.
at night. So let's start off in Kisumu. And as we speak, it is 20 degrees Celsius.
Absolutely. And then as we move along the day, highs of 29 degrees observed. And that seems
Very little cloud cover throughout the day. You can actually see highs of 29. So it's sunny intervals throughout the day. So if you're in Kisumu, this is a proper day to take a dip.
would love to take a dip.
Let's take a look at Garissa.
Garissa is 24 degrees currently, while weather feels like 24. And the highs of 37 degrees reported in Garissa.
Now this is harsh weather.
37.
This is not even friendly weather. So if you're in Garissa today, we are asking you, if you can, kindly hydrate. If you have a kofia, va.
Umbrella, sunscreen. Make
Don't
sure.
overdress the children there.
Yes.
The weather is a bit harsh today. Elsewhere,
Look at Lamu.
holiday
Happening
weather.
at the coastal region. Feels like 28 degrees. It is currently 26 in Lamu, and it moves up to 31 degrees. Those are the highs that Lamu is experiencing throughout the day. Sunny, quite a sunny day with some cloud cover until 10 a.m. After that, the sun is shining.
And
the weather is
when
sweet.
When it comes from Lamu, you know this is proper holiday
Yes.
weather. You can go to the beach, wear your shorts, a t-shirt or nothing, and you'll be okay. So we've looked at Kisumu, Lamu and Garissa, and generally average temperatures there averaging above 20-25 degrees Celsius today, meaning the entire country are experiencing warm weather. Let's come back home and take a look at Nairobi.
Right, let's take a look at what's happening in the capital. Currently, 15 degrees is what we are experiencing. And throughout the day, it will continue to rise at 28 degrees. That is the highest temperature that will be recorded today. And of course, there is some cloud cover that goes on from around 1 p.m. moving on until 5 p.m. And then, yeah, we seem to be having a pleasant day all through.
But most of the morning, no cloud cover at all.
Yes, all sunny.
No chance of rain, zero
0%
millimeters.
at all. So today we're going to keep seeing the sun shining all the way until 1-2 in the afternoon. So it's a all-round sunny day today that we're going to be seeing right here in the capital.
All right, so let's come back and take a look at our dailies. And after looking at the dailies from our neighboring countries, I'm not so enthusiastic about this, but it's our job, we have to. So tuangazie magazeti ya Kenya. And in typical Kenyan fashion, the Star goes ahead and splashes a very political headline, quoting Gema, why Kalonzo is targeting rebels. You even see the kind of language used in Kenya. Now there are people considered rebels. Former VP goes flat out to win over disgruntled Gachagua supporters. Rebels, disgruntled, you know. So, okay, the angle is that now that it would appear following the impeachment of the deputy president, one region, which is the Mount Kenya region, appears to be at least on the face of it, sidelined from government. So Kalonzo could be trying to cash in on that as well. So that's the main headline there. The other headline given prominence on this paper is right below that story. WASU, this is the university's academic staff union, leads lecturers in nationwide strike over welfare, and a very
Interesting photo.
Yes.
Choice of photo there.
Yeah, dramatic. University Academic Staff Union Secretary General Constantine Wasonga and other officials arrived at Technical University of Kenya in Nairobi yesterday, where they declared they can work anywhere in the world. Mukikataa afanye kazi hapa, these are educated people. They can go and work elsewhere. After all, you're sending others to Qatar to go and wash. Anyway.
Fred, I'd like you to take your attention to the top right there and look at that particular headline right there in the top right. Conservatory orders impeach DP. Gachagua puts up case to block Kindiki swearing in, and that is on page 2. And the reason of this is because he says he's ineligible because he was not a member of the United Democratic Alliance Party for 3 months prior to his nomination. So that's on page 2, and those are his reasons for him trying to block the fact that he is going to be sworn in at some point, and he's trying to stop that.
Wow, interesting there. And well, everyone is waiting for when the court will actually make a pronouncement so that we see the way forward.
Wait and watch.
For now we wait. Other quick highlights on the front page of the Star. State releases 9 billion shillings to SHA as crunch persists. Hopefully positive, because there have been so many complaints about patients not being able to access treatment because of the slowed transition, lack of funds, many hospitals saying, hey, hawalipi atutibu. Elsewhere, 3 Kilifi men living in fear over witchcraft claims. Now, these are kind of a headline you expect in a Tanzanian paper, but hey, it's in Kenya now. Finally, abortion debate.
Right to life. Kenyan courts could become more liberal in handling abortion cases if judges start using a book put together by the International Commission of Jurists titled The Right to Health Bench Book, Select Decisions, Issues and Themes. That is on page 9.
All right. That's a Star paper today. Smart people read the Star. Grab yourself a copy of this paper. Let's take a look at what's the biggest news on the People Daily. All
right, and of course, as you can see, majority of this page, well, at the middle right there on the cover page, Riggy G hangs on thin thread. Judges set to rule on whether conservatory orders that prevented Kindiki from being sworn in as the new deputy president should be lifted on page 4, right? That particular angle seems to be appearing on quite a few of the dailies. We saw that in the Star. Now we're seeing it at the People Daily as well.
All right. Something else that may have escaped the attention of probably the Star.
Yes.
At least Matters Education today is the end of the KPSEA exams. There's only one paper, I think, Creative and Social Studies. Creative Arts and Social Studies. It's the very last paper. Between 8:30 and 10:30. After that, watoto wanafunga shule, wanakuja nyumbani for the next 2.5 months.
Holidays are officially here.
2.5 months. The kind of noise in residential estates, you can't even cope with it.
Yeah. You don't look too pleased with that, but
anyway, so yes, Matters Education, of course, KCSE still continues.
Right there at the top, Ruto MPs oppose term extension bill on page 3. Of course, you heard what the president said a few days ago, and he said that he is also against it.
Interesting, because you know what governments do and what administrations do. They usually test the waters.
Yes.
So they put
By
something
making
out.
such remarks.
They put something out just to see the reactions. Alafu wanasema hata sisi hatuwezi kubaliana na hiyo. Hata sisi tumekataa, because that's a general public sentiment.
And of course, these are MPs from left talking about how they have rejected the bill meant to extend the presidential term limit.
Talking about US elections that you mentioned about, Palejuk on the top strip of this front page, they talk about best films about US presidential elections.
I like that.
A story on page 20 of the People Daily.
It's a different angle finally, because all we're seeing is the current updates, live updates with just 6 days to go. This one talks about what movies you can watch.
Actually, what is your best US government movie that you've ever watched, or even a TV series?
Not much.
There's a West Wing.
Yeah.
There's House of Cards.
The Oval.
There's what do you call it?
Too Close to Home.
There's 24. There's Designated Survivor.
Madam President.
Designated Survivor. No, kuna mwa Kenya. All right. So looking forward to watching. You can find out, I think, on this story. Unfortunately, we do not have the physical copy, so we can't tell you much about the story.
Yeah.
Let's move on now to the Daily Nation.
Right, of course, majority of the newspaper right there talks about outrage over police phone spying expose, and that is from the human rights sector, where shock has been greeted. The exclusive Nation investigative story revealing how police have been colluding with telecoms firms to irregularly access call data and location records that are actually used to track and capture suspects, with the US denouncing the abuse of mobile phone users' right to privacy. And this is something that Meg Whitman, that's the US ambassador to Kenya, and this is a statement from her. She says, the laws of privacy and rule of law around rights of a private citizen need to be respected in all democracies.
Yes, indeed, it needs to be. So telcos have been helping to cover up abductions, killings committed by rogue agencies. That is, we can only say, shame on you.
Shame on you indeed. On the right, we see main suspect in Wells Fargo HR boss murder went on spending spree. And Victor Ouma Okoth, who was actually arrested on Monday in connection to this killing, and whose body was found on October 23rd, 3 days after he went missing in Siaya.
All right. The other big story on the front page down there, and all the papers have not captured, is what the Supreme Court said yesterday. The Apex Court reinstated Finance Act of 2023. So the National Treasury scored a big win after the Supreme Court overturned the nullification of the Finance Act of 2023, allowing the government to continue collecting taxes using the laws. I'm not so sure if they had ever stopped, because even the housing levy was part of that act. A full bench of the top court ruled that Parliament adhere to the required legislative process of public participation and concurrence when enacting the laws.
Right at the top, of course, the angle that seems to have been taken by all the dailies, where Gachagua goes after Kindiki, the legal battle where the impeached deputy president has trained his guns on his designated successor, saying he is ineligible because, as I said earlier on, he was not a member of the United Democratic Alliance Party for 3 months prior to his nomination. And that's the story on page 7.
All right. On the back page is where we have education matters. Learning paralyzed universities as dons begin job boycott. Lecturers Union wants the government to fully honor an agreement that was signed to end previous strike. We've talked about this story before. So let's move on to the other headline there on that back page. Grade 9 crisis persists despite government assurances. And this is just within 2 months, with only 2 months to learners, with just 2 months to learners in the pioneer class of the competency-based curriculum. Transitioning to grade 9, infrastructural and staffing challenges persist, even as the government claims that all is well. The president was saying that by January they will have hired, was it 11,000 or 20,000
20,000 teachers in January.
Well, the thing is, and with all due respect, Mr. President, promises zimekuwa mingi. So we're not so sure if whatever you say will actually come to pass.
Moving on, in the Standard, you're out, DP told as he goes for Ruto. And the state tells court that Rigathi Gachagua sees being deputy president on the day he was actually impeached and should pave way for the swearing in of Kithure Kindiki, even as the impeached DP now accuses President Ruto, Parliament and state agencies of flouting the law during his removal proceedings. That story appears on page 4 and 5 of the Standard.
All right. Big win for Ruto as court retains Finance Act. I think we've talked about that. Learning universities paralyzed. Who wanted HR Guru Ayeko dead and why? Focus shifts to KCSE as grade 6 test closes.
Kenya Power from loss to 30 billion shilling profit. Oh, interesting. At least some positive story there. Win and lose, irony of US poll system, and Rodri is new king of football. That's on page 32.
Yes, that's the back page of the Standard dedicated to the new winner of the Ballon d'Or. Rodri wins men's Ballon d'Or as Real Madrid boycott Gala. Barcelona star Bonmati wins second successive women's title. And yes, a lot of controversy coming from this year's Ballon d'Or. Many people disagree with the choice of Rodri. They think a different guy, Vinicius Jr. should have been awarded. That's the Standard today. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
SHIF ni mateso, vilio.
Kilio. Wasaba wagonjwa wanaendelea kuteseka wakisaka matibabu chini ya hazina ya afya ya jamii SHIF, huku daktari mtaalamu wa upasuaji akianika masaibu ambayo Wakenya wamekuwa wakipitia tangu mpango huo ulipoanza kutumika mnamo Oktoba mosi. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Na hii ndio tunasema You know, the president earlier this week said that
Yes.
all this criticism is just pure propaganda.
He urged Kenyans to actually, enroll onto SHIF and be more open to it. And he said the sooner that happens, the better for everybody, so that people can start getting treated.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, wait. Habari zingine pale, vidokezo zaidi: mauaji ya wanawake yatikisa nchi, the return of femicide cases, mshukiwa wa mauaji ya afisa anaswa, na kwenye masuala ya Marekani, masanduku ya kura ya chomwa. Visa sawa na hivyo vyashuhudiwa Phoenix, Arizona, kusini magharibi mwa Amerika.
So 7 states, those are the states that will determine who will win this year's US elections, of course, currently, as we do know. Kamala Harris is leading with 1.4%, very small margin right there. She's actually, it has dipped the margin rather from 1.7 to 1.4. So let's see as time progresses what happens.
And that's a very interesting thing, the fact that even in the US,
Yes.
Maswala ya uchaguzi yanaleta tumbo joto. Wamechoma hata kura zenyewe, makaratasi ya kura zilizopigwa tayari. Vidokezo zaidi pale juu: mwizi wa mifugo jela miaka 60. Hii ni baada ya kumpata na hatia ya mashtaka mawili kushiriki wizi wa kimabavu. Na Rodri pale pia ametajwa baada ya kutwaa Ballon d'Or, ila kwa utata. Kiungo wa Man City atajwa bora katika hali iliyozua mihemko duniani kote. The whole world is wondering, are you sure?
The Business Daily: why CA gave Safaricom Airtel temporary licenses and the decision made pending deal on permit spectrum fees. Regular seeks fresh rules for quality, that is penalties for outages that we have been experiencing this year especially. Safaricom and Airtel Kenya have been offered a temporary 2-year operation license that is pending agreements on the permit fees on how to allocate spectrums and penalties for voice service outages. And 1.63 billion shillings, Fred, is what Safaricom paid for a 2-year license plus another 6 million shillings.
But yes, Safaricom actually make about 40 billion shillings a year in profit. So 1.6 they walipe Safaricom. Kenya Power pays its first dividend in 6 years after posting profits, and you can see
all smiles
smile
there. That's the Kenya Power CEO,
Bwana Siror.
Siror, looking very happy right there.
I think he's on cloud 9. If you're the CEO of Kenya Power and you've just posted 43 point something billion shillings
After
in
how
profit.
many years?
Well, they've been posting profits, but this is actually huge.
That is
anyway, they're the monopoly.
one of the
They're the only ones.
biggest.
They're the only ones who distribute power.
But one of the biggest profits recorded.
And the quick highlights on the ticker: Treasury's relief as judges reinstate Finance Act that we've talked about.
Yes.
Court block sale of Tuju assets in actual valuation row. And finally, IFC plans 2.58 billion shilling loan for steel firm in Kenya and Ethiopia. And that's
The
as
Business
far as
Daily.
business is concerned. Tumalizie tukiangalia maswala ya karakacha. We start off with a cartoon on the Standard, and we always say that once you find that the cartoonists have found a way to caricature you, then you've
Yes.
made it.
Yes.
This is one of the MP, Homa Bay Town MP, Peter Kaluma.
So back in the day, he said, we have to speak truth to power.
Yes, when he was in opposition.
Absolutely.
With his tie, you see his tie, he still has that huge R for their party leader, Raila Odinga.
And now
Now he's already dressed in yellow and green.
and there's no tie right there.
Yeah,
It
so-
says, we have the power, so why speak truth? Okay.
This is the irony, what this newfound alliance between ODM and UDA, or Kenya Kwanza, how it has changed politicians.
Yes.
Those who are so critical to this government are now saying, hey, everything is okay. They're actually the biggest defenders of government. Even where guys are like, ay, hapo bana mmekuja sana.
Yeah.
So on social media, especially on X, this guy, Peter Kaluma, is very active, supporting everything that's government, even things that don't need support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
This is a Daily Nation cartoon.
With all that's closed, now we have enough labor to export.
Yes, and what they're talking
Labor
about...
office right there that is closed.
Yes. At the weekend, there was the government, Ministry of Labour invited Kenyans to actually apply for jobs in Qatar.
Absolutely.
So there were more than 97,000 people who showed up, yet the
Yes.
jobs, vacancies were only 8,000. That's what they said. But people in Qatar and the Gulf say there are actually no jobs here. We're struggling, we don't have jobs.
Wow.
So the promise has always been by this government that Boda Boda and Mama
Mbogas
Mboga
are
will
going to
benefit.
be benefiting.
But now the economic situation has forced them to close down their businesses, but sasa wanaambiwa fungeni tu so that we can actually take you away.
Very sad state of affairs right there.
Tukimalizia tuangazie cartoon kwenye gazeti la People Daily.
That's a time bomb right there that he's sitting on.
The Gachagua impeachment is a time bomb.
And 2027 votes right there.
He's trying to fish for votes from the mountain.
The mountain region.
Yes, while sitting on this time bomb. That's the caricature of the president. Interesting. So yes, these are just some of the discussions we'll be having with my panelists. David Kiplagat, alongside Beatrice Elachi. Could we have that flyer?
And Joshua Kipto, that's the advocate of the High Court.
Yes,
so
this is a panel that we'll have after the break, so do stand by for that. After that, matters relationships, modern day relationships as well.
We'll be having a very interesting discussion today on the sponsors era, love or money, with 8 very talented young individuals from different walks of life.
Should I ask you that question?
For me, it's always love.
Not money?
See, I have the money.
Okay. Hey.
I'm manifesting, Fred.
Okay.
You need to speak to the universe, always.
Let's eat. It's Tasty Wednesday. What do we have for Tasty Wednesday?
On Tasty Wednesday, of course, we have Chef Brian, who is going to be cooking up a storm, and he's going to be telling us what he's got prepared for us. So that's our guest today from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
All right, and I think we have a minute, so we can take a look quickly at the traffic situation. So yes, traffic situation. This is Kiambu Road. Kiambu Road, yes.
All seems to be A-OK as we speak.
To see, I don't know why. Yes.
Oh, no, not really. All does not seem to be A-OK there at least.
You see, the problem is that this interchange here, well, it's not really a problem. This is normal traffic around here because it's a bottleneck between Kiambu Road and Thika Road. They meet up here, but after that it's Nyue all the way on Muranga Road and Forest Road into town.
Seems to be moving well.
Juja Road is busy, especially after that Eastleigh Junction all the way towards Pangani area as well, but that's normal for them. That's inside town, yes.
There seems to be some
areas around Machakos bus station there, that end for Haile Selassie Avenue. Haile Selassie Avenue is usually busy around this time. Railway bus station next to Easy Coach.
Seems to be slow traffic right there as well.
There's a lot of travel today. There's a lot of travel as we get into the holidays.
Jogo Road seems to be having quite a few
yes, this one is a long stretch.
Pickups,
yes, all the way from Buruburu corner there, past Mbotela, Makadara area, and towards the City Stadium roundabout. So Jogo Road quite busy this morning, as at 6:30. Other areas that are busy, you can actually see that the expressway is looking green, but below there, on Mombasa Road, the real Mombasa Road, there's a bit of traffic around areas of General Motors. They're heading towards Panari Hotel, towards town. But if you're using the expressway, uko tu sawa. Utafika. Southern Bypass looking good. Langata Road also looking good all the way down to Timor Roundabout and beyond, all the way to the Nyayo Stadium Roundabout. Mbagathi Way looking green all the way. A bit of a snarl up around the City Mortuary Roundabout. Gong
Road right there seems to be okay as well, but yeah, a bit of traffic there near Adams Arcade.
Finally, let's take a look at nitaje barabara ya kutoka huko Kangemi. This one is called the Wayaki Way. Yes, Wayaki Way is looking good, comfortable all the way, even past Nairobi School. Unajua shule pia imefunga. They're only doing KCSE, so nothing to report as far as that road. Nothing major to report as far as Wayaki Way is concerned. Oh yes, so that's the traffic situation. Let's take a break now. We'll be back with a lot more.
Hey there friends, Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here, TV47. My name is Fred Indemuli. Time for State of the Nation. A look at the big headlines today, and of course, a lot on the front pages still have news or big headlines with regard to what's going on in the courts, the impeachment of Deputy President Gachagua. I'd introduced earlier 3 people for the panel, but only Wakili Joshua Kipto has made it to studio so far. We do expect the other people to join us later. Wakili, karibu sana and good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Yes.
Asante.
So the country remains fixated on what's happening in the courts. Many people may not understand. There's been a lot of back and forth. And many are wondering, okay, so where are we? And when do we expect a ruling probably that will give us a way forward? Or should we expect to still linger with the kind of debates we are seeing in court? Sometimes we hear about recusal, we hear about empanelment, and we hear all these things, and people wonder, okay, so where are we? And how soon can we expect something substantive from the courts?
Okay, thank you very much, Fred, and it's a pleasure to always be here. Now, I think I was here 2 weeks ago in the night show, Primetime 9, and we were discussing how the impeachment is going to unfold. As at that time, National Assembly had already finished with the impeachment motion, which set the space or the space for the trial at the Senate. And our conversation then was way out for the Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, but importantly, what will unfold. And in that segment, if your viewers were following keenly, I said this battle will be two-pronged. One, it will be on the legislative side, which is National Assembly and the Senate. But that will be only one side of the story. The second side of the story that will drag on for quite some time, and it will be more or less like scorched earth policy, will be the judicial fight. The reason is, at that time, my prediction was Rigathi had 2 narrow choices. Make a decision just after National Assembly had finished their motion and forwarded the same to Senate, resign, so that it brings a closure. And that would have come from a self-preservation mode in terms of he can't be and he can't remain politically active because impeachment has a finality. But number 2, I said, fight it out in the Senate, but remember, that means if the Senate succeeds in impeaching him, that's a done deal. Only salvation remains judiciary, and that's where they are. Now, let's look at their second level, what they are doing. Their approach has been create as many legal fights as possible. Approach several forums of the court to address the issue of impeachment. They are attacking the process, they are attacking the outcome, and they're equally attacking the impartiality of the judiciary. So 3 things they are attacking at the same time. So that if you saw their filings in the first instance was basically in 2 different courts at the High Court, was to get orders that temporarily suspended the resolution of the collective house, both National Assembly and the Senate. And they succeeded to get, in fact, 2 interim orders were issued separately. That's number 1. Number 2, after they had interim orders that meant, and the interim orders at first instance, people assumed that they were out of time. But if you look at the wording of the orders in the 2 courts, one kind of suspended the execution of the resolution of Senate because gazettement had been done. But secondly, it equally went, the second interim order went further to even stop the swearing in of the Deputy President designate or appointee, Professor Kithure Kindiki. So in that they were secure for now. Then now they moved into their second space of now attacking the impartiality of the bench, because that would mean once you had several cases, it was easier now for the judiciary to consolidate under one bench. And that falls under the ambit of the Chief Justice to nominate a panel of judges. And if you look at the 3 or 4, 5 applications they had done before, each of the individual judges at the High Court had already recommended and had written to the Chief Justice that this matter is of serious, huge public interest and can only be handled by a 3-judge bench. And that's why it was constituted under the 3-judge bench. That's when now they moved into their second level of fight, which was to accuse the impartiality of the bench. But even before accusing the impartiality, they even attacked the process of the nomination, because it is the Chief Justice who nominates. But in this case, in the absence of the Chief Justice, you have the Deputy Chief Justice. So they were attacking the process, whether it was valid for the Deputy Chief Justice, Philomena Mwilu, to nominate. And when that failed, then they moved towards impartiality. And if you look yesterday and last week, they were saying the judges are biased. And that's why now they were making an application for recusal. Again, that one was defeated. Now they have gone further. So they're just shifting gears. Now their next step is now to attack the process, which is the impeachment proceedings. And that has not come because that is
at the Houses of Parliament.
Both. Yes. So they have not even got to that yet. Why? Because that is a substantive application that we'd expect need to be had. So we haven't even started hearing the substantive aspects of these matters in court. What we are now seeing, yesterday, they were focusing on the nomination of Kithure Kindiki. So they will seek to prosecute nomination of Professor Kithure Kindiki so that to put court in a place where it has to rule whether he was validly nominated. And they raise serious issues, like, for example, saying he's not been a member of the UDA, the requirement is 3 months in advance. Number two, he did not resign from cabinet. So we are going to put a test to this law. You remember this law when it comes to elections. Most of us, before you could vie for an elective seat, it was a choice of resigning 6 months in advance. But this may be a bit dicey. I remember when I was a speaker of Nandi County and I sought to vie for the governorship, then formerly deputy governorship for Nandi, that question for me would have come. But now I was already still serving. So, and I remember courts have already made rulings about such a case. So they are inviting the court to make a ruling on that. But importantly, once this is being determined, they'll now go for the process, which in this case, they will now seek to bring substantively the issues of public participation and whether indeed the impeachment proceedings were valid. So in a nutshell, if you see, we are just warming up in the judicial fight.
So Wakili, if I hear you right, is that this thing is nowhere near the end?
You cannot, now judiciary works differently, and it's not like, for example, the parliamentary process that had a time bound. This one does not have a timeline. And this is what our viewers need to know. It's different from the presidential petition, which is time bound. Yes. That one would have spoken with certainty that within 21 days the matter should have come to a close. And if you look at the Assumption of Office Act, it speaks of timelines within which, upon election, Supreme Court determination, how many days until when a president is sworn in. Assumption even of the government side of the divide, if you look at the government lawyers, their assumption was also to make an application to that effect. There was an attempt to, from the government side or the parliament side, to say this is a matter that touches on the presidency, so it can only be handled at the Supreme Court level. Why were they looking for such an option? Because now they would then focus the court towards implementing within the timelines the norms established towards presidential petitions. Now this one is different because this is a constitutional issue.
Any decision after that cannot be challenged.
Can be challenged at the Court of Appeal. Actually, the lawyers of the Deputy President have proceeded to the Court of Appeal to immediately challenge the first ruling that was given on recusal. They are even changed, not the recusal, the one that spoke about constitution of the bench by Philomena Mwilu. So with that, we cannot tell our viewers with certainty that this one will take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no. And that's why you've seen government lawyers, parliament lawyers are focusing the bench and telling the bench, the lawyers of the Deputy President are focusing on non-issues. They are focusing on the peripheral issues. They are not going for their main application. Why would they say that? Because they are getting impatient, and you'd understand that. So you have several layers, and I think it's a good thing for the Republic to be able to be treated to a novel case that would then set a precedent. When we had our presidential petition the first time in 2013, previously we had cases on presidential elections 97, 2002, 92, but they weren't as momentous because they were gray area. This one under the new constitution 2013 had the kind of vibe we have now, because that was the first time we were seeing a momentous case coming before the court. Now, this is the first time we're seeing impeachment of a sitting deputy president. So whatever the court will rule will form the basis for the next impeachments.
Okay.
Yes.
And now that you're saying that the deputy president has already moved to the Court of Appeal, it is expected that even after that, he still has the opportunity to move to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
All these other matters that may be considered peripheral could still find their way up to the Supreme Court.
Definitely.
Meaning that we could get to the end of this year and still have these cases or some strands of these cases still continuing in the corridors of justice.
Absolutely. And that's why the judiciary is found in a very dicey situation. And I've seen commentators and a few of legal minds arguing that we are putting the Constitution to the test, especially the principle of separation of powers. Because you have a case where we are testing the might of each of the arms. The legislative body made this decision, and they are emphatic about it. We impeached, we met the constitutional threshold, our decision is impugnable. You cannot impugn it through a court process. That is their finding. The executive moved in quickly, has nominated, and even has already submitted the name that Parliament has already considered. So you find the executive and legislature having already concluded their bit. So you are now having the judiciary on the spot. And why I'm saying it's a dicey situation, there's an accusation that is being said is the judiciary in a space of overreach, that they are now seeming to be the prefect. You would understand that concern or apprehension because it comes from a point of the executive and the legislature feeling we have finished, this is our process, you can't touch it. The executive executive says we cannot operate with a vacuum in this office. And you've seen the executive quickly moving in to implement. When you saw a circular sending staff from the office of the deputy president on a compulsory leave, it was a message. When you saw, even if you look at the political movements, you can see the country politically somehow has accepted and moved on. You have a case of even the national holiday where the deputy president who's been impeached cannot attend. So he's more like in a purgatory. He's been cancelled by the two arms of government. Executive, legislature, done. No point of return. And politically speaking, there's no way you can reconnect that. The president himself even has no power to take it back, because going against the resolution of a National Assembly that was more than 2/3, Senate more than 2/3, becomes impossible. So what that means, judiciary now is on the dock to determine, they have to determine the application of the law, they have to set a precedent, so they cannot avoid to make a decision. However, if I were in the space of judiciary, I would want to offer one aspect of goodwill: expedite the matter, so that I'm happy with how the panel of judges is dealing. Every single day they are sitting and they are not constraining each of the parties in their representation or their presentations. That's why they have been tackling issues one by one. Recusal, done. Issue about the constitution of the bench, they're done. And once they finish, they tell you can proceed to the next level court. Okay. So Court of Appeal will immediately be sitting on an appeal on this issue.
Okay. Yeah. And even as we continue with this discussion, I'd like to invite onto the set Beatrice Elachi, MP Dagoretti North. She's our other panelist. Honorable Elachi, karibu sana. So as we continue talking about the judiciary, and there's a lot of focus in the courts, there's also the issue of the Supreme Court and the pronouncements it made yesterday with regards to the Finance Act of 2023. Yes. And there's been a lot of reaction from that, and I would want to get your reaction as well. Because many people, some argue that the Supreme Court and the nature it has adopted of having one unified response to everything instead of each member of the panel giving their own ruling. Probably that should come into question as well. Now that they've already given their ruling, we're free to talk about it.
Good. I think for the Supreme Court, in the context of making a decision, a Supreme Court is like almost the political side of the court. And it's not just Kenya. World over, Supreme Court is more or less the politically conscious and the politically active branch of the court across the world. In the US, nomination of Supreme Court judges is it's a partisan issue. Yes. Because it speaks to, for example, the philosophies of the different parties, so that Republicans will nominate judges who are aligned to Republican ideals. So same thing in Kenya. If you look at the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, for them being the apex court, and their jurisdiction clearly defined to be matters of high public interest, which is within definitely the ambit of politics. So whatever will land at their desk is of significant public interest and has far-reaching effect. That's one. Number two, every Supreme Court again can be defined in how they have been giving decisions. And we've had now 3 Supreme Courts. In Kenya, we can say 3 since the new constitution. You had the Mutunga Court, you have the Justice Maraga Court, now you have Justice Koome Court. The 3 Supreme Courts, I kind of find them almost similar, but with slight differences. In the first court of Mutunga, there was always unanimity of making decisions. If you remember, the biggest complaint that was done for the presidential petition of 2013, it was anticlimax for most people who were seeing the Supreme Court making a decision for the first time on a presidential petition. By virtue that it was a unanimous decision, was a big disappointment. The legal fraternity, or basically the country, expected there to be a sharp divide depending on the philosophy of an individual judge. But the Mutunga Court always had a unanimity bit. You have the Maraga Court that created a bit of differentiation, where you would get always dissenting, 1 or 2 dissenting. And that was their that was the identity. So that you would find even in 2017, when the elections were being nullified, you had 2 judges dissenting. Retired Justice Ojwang and the current sitting Justice, former MP, Njoki Ndongo. Then you have the Koome Court. Again, they have recovered, or they are somehow similar, a replica of the Mutunga Court, where theirs is mostly a unanimous decision. And that's why when they ruled on the presidential petition 2022, it was a unanimous decision. So I would not be surprised why they would do a unanimous decision. And importantly, when you're dealing with a matter of high public interest, by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, it is distilled. So they always make a decision that is Are they in support or not? Are they upholding the petition or are they dismissing? So you would find that bit. Maybe the accusation, which may be right. When a matter comes to the Supreme Court, you would expect them to go blow by blow on the details, because somehow within the legal space we somehow find that the more solid jurisprudential court precedents are now from the Court of Appeal. At the Supreme Court, it's quite difficult, unless for presidential petitions. The Supreme Court has been eclipsed by the Court of Appeal when it comes to soundness of legal judgments, and that has been accusation, and that's why you've seen kind of that anticlimax and more or less a sense of disappointment. But ultimately, remember, Supreme Court, it is always based on that. Now that they have been operating on unanimity, that was not a surprise. Number two, for them, I think they decided to consolidate and say, what is the issue? Is it valid or not valid? And then they decided to rule unanimously. A classical legal person would expect several principles that would have applied to the rest.
All right.
Thank you.
And yes, that forms a lot, at least it's mentioned on all the front pages, the fact that the Supreme Court made a ruling finally, reinstating the Finance Act of 2023. Karibu sana, Beatrice Alachi, to the panel. You found us engaging in a lot of legalese here with Wakili Joshua Kipto. Incidentally, you've both served as speakers of county assemblies. You've served in the Nandi County Assembly, and she has served in the County Assembly.
Our biggest assembly was Nairobi Assembly with 123.
Yes.
So she was more than a speaker. She was always the mother speaker, because if you compare myself, I had 40 MCAs, which is a third of the numbers.
Yes.
And theirs was high octane politics.
She has also had the unfortunate experience of being impeached.
Not once, several impeachments. She fought through all the way to the last.
But of course, the country remains fixated on this impeachment process, and many would have expected, given the kind of tweets that we saw from members of the National Assembly. They said 2 weeks we're going to be having something different. The expectation was that by Mashujaa Day we'll be having a deputy president. As a member of the National Assembly, you did what you did, but according to Wakili, this might take actually a very long time before it is resolved in the judiciary. Where does it leave you in the National Assembly?
Well, I believe we were here with Wakili and we agreed. What we have done as politicians, now leave it. And this is a case that will go up to the Supreme Court, as Wakili says, and it's true. It will go to the Supreme Court for many reasons. You see, in the end of the day, the former deputy president needs to fight to ensure either he gets his package as a retiree or he comes back properly in politics, because he knows you have 10 years that you cannot do politics again. So that's what I think. I was disappointed also why we've taken too long even to start his matter, and even for them, I wonder whether, I think his team has assumed that we are in court and that's it, but they are forgetting the Constitution also says you have exact time that you are supposed to do this process and either swear in a new deputy president or him being reinstated completely as a deputy president. And it is very sad that those 60 days, I can see them now coming to lapse. And if they don't check it properly, by November mid going down, you will have finished your 60 days. I don't know whether they are looking at those things in terms of the time frame, in the principle of the Constitution, and within the articles that are really confined on how you impeach a deputy president. So I'm hoping the Wakilis, on these 2 weeks, they have really taken him on a roller coaster of many things I didn't understand, must stop and come to the real matter. Why are we in court?
Okay.
Yes. Why are we in court? Was to reinstate, and they have to now reorganize.
On that question of the duration, I don't know, Wakili, if we are correct here, because some of those timelines probably would apply to the parliamentary process. I don't know if they apply for the judiciary, the process already before the judiciary.
Now, she's brought a very important component that we need to see. When the Constitution gives a timeline within which you can replace, then that would be an interpretation fight that will come before the court. Why? Because unlike the presidential petition, specific timelines have been apportioned up to including the judicial process.
Yeah.
For the impeachment, we have specific timelines for the process at the legislature.
Yes.
National Assembly had a cutout time. And remember, Mheshimiwa had to sit late in the night because their timelines were fixed.
Yes.
Number two, when Senate received the verdict of the National Assembly, their time started running.
Yeah.
And if you remember, when the deputy president, and that's why I can see for them they have chosen the legal route of fighting. When he was to appear to defend himself in the floor of the Senate, he took off. And in taking off, it was a way of possibly defeating the timeline that Senate had.
Yeah.
And the speaker was a bit... Now, this is where some of the lawyers are arguing that that will be a major point the Rigathi lawyers are going to use and say that he was not given a right to fair hearing to respond. However, the Senate would argue we put it to a vote because of the timeline set within which our process must operate. Now, for the judiciary, there is no set timeline within which they are to make a decision. However, collectively, the 60 days runs. So it will be a careful balance where the judiciary now will have to make a decision and say, either they may end up saying, we've not been per se been given a timeline within which to define, just like the way the Constitution prescribes the timeline for a presidential petition. And even if you look at the current petitions when it comes to governors, MPs, now they are defined. So court may argue that may not apply to us. However, a strong argument then will come, but collectively the 60-day runs. So where do you find yourself? And that's why you find the lawyers of Deputy President, because he's still the Deputy President by virtue of the court order. But politically, he is a former, as Mheshimiwa says. So legitimacy, he's a former. Because legislature says we don't recognize him, executive doesn't recognize him, that's why he cannot function, cannot operate. That then would mean their lawyers would want to test this to the limits, so that the Rigathi lawyers will say that 60-day doesn't apply. That, for me, will be another issue in court.
And it will definitely set a precedent on this impeachment issues that we are still trying to understand.
And that is why in the US, if it was in the US, you know, you don't really go to court when the Senate has impeached in the US, because they know it is a political process. So we want to see how we will set a precedence in Africa and in Kenya, that after a political process has been done, the courts can either quash. So people are waiting to see. And then we will ask ourselves then, is this process really a political process? So there are many things, and I believe many people are learning. It's even the courts, I believe they're also in a process of learning the whole. But I know they are looking at different best practices, and most of them are just in the US. Most of them. When you look at how they did their impeachments those days, and even when the two was to come, what happened? Yes.
All right, and that indeed is one of the biggest headlines. Gachagua goes after Kindiki is the main headline of the Daily Nation. You are out, DP told as he goes out for Ruto. That's the main headline of the Standard. Impeached DP Gachagua puts up case to block Kindiki swearing in. That's a Star. It also goes with this headline quoting Gema, which we'll be looking at later, why Kalonzo is targeting rebels. And I don't understand why anyone is being referred to as a rebel here in this conversation. We'll be taking a look at that. On the People Daily, meanwhile, Rigiji hangs on thin thread. That is as far as the impeachment process is concerned. After the break, we'll be looking at other things. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when
All right. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here at TV47 with me, Freddie Ndimuli. Time for us to, we continue taking a look at the dailies on State of the Nation. Matters to do with the Deputy President's impeachment continues dominating the headlines. I'm still in studio with Beatrice Salachi, MP Dagoretti North, and Joshua Kipto, Advocate of the High Court. Both of them have served as speakers in different county assemblies, Bwana Kipto in the County Assembly of Nandi and Beatrice Salachi in the County Assembly of Nairobi. Before we continue with our conversations, I'd like to watch this story as filed by one of our reporters here at TV47 on the settlement of pending bills for the NHIF. Of course, the health issue continues dominating headlines. Is it getting any better? Today, it's only a day before the end of this month. It is exactly 30 days since the rollout of the SHIF.
Weeks after the nationwide rollout of the Social Health Authority, SHA, the Ministry of Health has announced that it has released 9 billion shillings to the Social Health Authority to settle the outstanding bills incurred under the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF.
One of the outstanding issues which has come out from the facilities, both from the counties and the faith-based, is that the need to clear the outstanding payments.
This is according to the Principal Secretary for Medical Services, Harry Kimtai, who confirmed that facilities will receive the funds, including an additional 1 billion shillings for the Linda Mama program by the end of the week.
This week, additional 4.5 billion is going to be released, so that it goes to alleviate the challenges that the counties are facing. And in total, we will have released, by close of this month, we will have released 9 billion Kenya shillings.
Amid the persisting SHA wars, Kimtai has also emphasized the ministry's commitment to timely claim payments by addressing challenges to ensure no patient is denied services.
We have directed the county commissioners, we have directed the CECs to ensure that no facility is charging or asking patients to pay for their medical care upfront.
These as the national government now encourages county governments to sensitize Kenyans on the new health scheme. The PS made the announcement in Nakuru County during the inauguration of the Rift Region Multi-Sectoral Committee entrusted in steering SHA registration in different regions.
Thank you.
Chichi, Josephine, TV47.
Yeah, so Treasury has finally released some cash towards trying to ensure that the transition to SHIF is at least sorted out. It's been quite problematic for the whole month. And there's the issue of the fact that health is actually a default service, a default function. And all these things are being controlled from a centralized national level. Whether that contributes to the kind of delays in transition? I do not know. You've both served at the counties, county levels. Early this week, the president talked about the kind of criticism that the government is receiving. And one of the major criticism is on its handling of the transition from NHIF to SHIF. The president says it's pure propaganda. Yet people are dying. People are unable to access treatment because of the delays in transition. We've taken a whole 30 days and there are still problems with this transition. Wakili, where is the problem? This is something we've discussed for over a year, the expected transition from NHIF to SHIF. Is it really propaganda when people are saying they cannot receive treatment? We are seeing this is when money is being released and demands are being given to county commissioners to ensure that patients receive service.
Maybe a quick answer to that is that this is where you saw during the public participation for the impeachment proceedings of the then Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, you could find this issue finding itself into those conversations, whereby a common theme across the Republic was, this is a non-issue, this is not an important issue, this is not a priority issue, there are more pressing issues of national concern, and the transition to SHIF-SHA was always finding itself at the top. That's what I picked. Across the Republic, that was a bipartisan issue. So number one, I would encourage the president to see that line, that it was not coincidental that in every platform across the Republic, the conversation around NHIF to SHIF or SHA kind of became an emotive issue to people, even beyond the economic problems. That kind of was a single policy issue that even at the remotest part of the country, people were aware. That's one. Number two, look at the debate around this transition. It's not about the benefits per se. It's not about whether it's the right thing or not, but it's a question of workability. Had the Ministry of Health and the team done their homework before the rollout? Had they done public sensitization? Because from my side of divide, as a governance commentator or someone who follows closely on governance, there's a thin nexus between putting people in the space of accepting a change and just ramming in a change and assuming people will get along. For such an issue that has huge public interest and has direct effect on individual person, even if not you per se, your people, especially look at the people within the renal side of the health fraternity, dialysis and what have you. For them, it's a personal thing. And there was an appreciation that NHIF, having been there for more than 20, 30, 40 years, had kind of got it right with the procedures and the teething problems until it worked. Now, I find that the health team underestimated the need for public sensitization. Such a national rollout, especially a complete shift to a new system, if you ask me, needed 6 months of online as well as mainstream media sensitization and public campaigns down to the villages. Just like the way we do voter registration, voter sensitization. Why do we do that? Because you need to put the people in that mind shift. That did not happen. Number two, I also feel the ministry or the team did not do enough of piloting at the local level, because health is a thing, and being a speaker, this is where the quagmire is. I'm not getting the voice of the counties. Yet health is a county devolved function. It has now just been left to the Ministry of Health and the national government. That for me is even an indictment, one on the part of the Council of Governors as well as county governments, but at the same time the Senate has to speak up. Why? This is a county issue. Why is it that the Ministry of Health is shouldering the blame or seem to be the only one carrying out this? Then there seems to be a breakdown. There seems not to be a nexus between the two levels of government on this issue. Yet health is a devolved function. So for me, not enough nexus was put into place that can bring together the two levels of government, because the county governments have the bulk of the primary healthcare facilities up to level 5 and county referral hospitals. The national government only has the level 6, which in this case is the national referrals, which are a few, but the bulk of it are down here. So why don't we see that conversation? And importantly, I would think the ministry officials or the president delivery. I can't blame President much, because the president deals with the report he gets from his people. The people have to be honest, because you juxtapose the real human life stories that are coming vis-a-vis their You don't actually in communication.
The question arises
does
then,
it
does
goes
he have
off,
the right people?
That's why I'm saying it goes off for your people to just tell you blanketly that everything is okay. I would rather a nuanced communication and say this is a good thing. We promised, it's our signature move. We have teething problems. In fact, people are refusing the word teething. Say
30 days later,
we have
problems.
Oh, it will take some time because NHIF had done 30-40 years. This one is only 2 months. The problems are not coming to an end anytime soon. But confront the problem real time and say, yes, this is the problem. This is what we are going to do.
There are obvious administrative issues here, like Treasury now releasing money to pay pending bills for NHIF, which has been part of the problem. Reason being that some of the health facilities say we are still owed by NHIF. How do we start giving treatment or offering medicine with a new scheme? There's also the issue of the fact that counties are still in the green. They don't know what's happening. If at all this thing had been piloted properly, without it seeming like a rushed process, some of this issue would have been sorted out. Has it all just been about the money? Many Kenyans, especially those in formal employment, have for the very first time on their payslip seen that deduction of 2.75% from their gross pay towards this. Has it all been about that deduction?
Okay, thank you, Sam. You know, now let me just appreciate, yes, that indeed a very good idea. Indeed, a very good insurance. But now let us go to the Kenyans who have been given the responsibility to deal with this matter and who have failed completely. And I know I met a few of the President's Economic Council somewhere in Kisumu, and they were telling me they entered into a hospital. I was with a dentist and he finished. I told them, stop joking. Yes, stop. Let us stop joking with people. You guys at the top, that is how you are explaining everything to the president, and yet on the real bottom where you are supposed to deal with, you have done worse. In fact, you have affected more lives than what was there before. The problem is not the name. The problem is just, fine, you felt that we need to move from NHIF to SHA, and it was a more advanced insurance than what we have. Yes. What was this that you could not just, the way you are sending that message, because there's a message they are sending, welcome to SHA and all those things. But then after you have welcomed me and you have gone to tell the president you have 12 million Kenyans who have moved, then the mama goes now to hospital and she has this message. She's a diabetic patient. She normally walks to Riruta, gets her things, or another hospital. She's told. Then one thing the guy told me was, you have to go through a system check. Then I asked them, so where are these guys who are supposed to take us through the system check? Or to ensure I have been completely now registered with my information. Because that's a system check that they are talking about, is that you get now clear your information. Then I asked, when this young or old mama was applying NHIF, I thought the information was there. So which other information, especially somebody who had paid NHIF for 1 year, the information is there. Why won't you just take young people to sit on laptops and do for you this system you brought in and clear? Now you want to tell me, now they are saying they have a multi-sectoral and the county commissioners. So why do we have community health workers? Who knows the patient more? Why can't we use community health workers? Bring in numerators from your team who can work with community health workers in every constituency. And in fact, just use the constituency offices. It is more, see, they normally come for bursary there. Why can't they camp there and you sit with a team and they go through and every person comes there? It doesn't matter how long it will take, but at least we'll be having the same way we do the camps with NHIF. We do the same.
Listening to both of you, you seem to suggest that the president is misinformed.
Oh, completely.
Absolutely.
And I will
when
tell
he talks
him,
about
I'll give him an example just now. So I have a patient in Kenyatta who had NHIF, and is struggling with the son so much that we will have to now contribute 60,000 to pay, and then Kenyatta waives the rest. Now, is that now SHA? Because now we are straining Kenyatta. In most things, we are just writing wave letters, because this card is not functioning. And not just functioning. So, I want to see one thing that you use after you have completely been introduced into SHA. You know, I wonder how our people advise the president. You forget a show cannot understand when you say there is a number. You just walk in and out.
The president has been in government for so long. He has seen some serious transitions, even with Huduma number. He saw he's seen even voter registration. He knows what kind of process is required for this kind of work. He knows none of that has happened. Why would he come out and say a lot of this criticism is propaganda?
No. This is a problem.
That is his team now.
Actually, this is a problem of a know-it-all attitude from the team.
Yes.
That works for the president.
Yes.
Not accepting bare minimums, that a national rollout. Look, let me ask. Voter registration is one process. Just register, get a voter's card, nothing more. And it is always updated. But look at the effort they do. Registering at every polling station for 30 days.
Yes.
And they run campaigns in every media station.
I haven't seen
social media.
Has there been a registration campaign for SHA?
Have I seen any you running here? I see you giving me a map. So how will somebody watching this?
And that is why you find the policy heads only themselves talking. It is like us sitting here. They'll come here and say everything is ready. That's why they gave that statement that 12 million have been. I even received my message myself.
No, I have.
But if you
go... But after that, I have no idea what to do with
So there are two levels here. The administrative component, which needed to embed people, stakeholders, even the MPs. Because these are the ones who are dealing with NHIF themselves, directly as MPs. The bursary thing has worked after a careful struggle by the parliamentarians to integrate it at the constituency level, to the sublocation level. And Beatrice Elachi will tell you now, even her system of bursary distribution is now better than Shifsha. Why? It has taken them to go to the little details and register, coming with a formula and said, I need total orphans, I need partial. Now finishing on this, I feel the team is already talking about the substantive component, about benefits comparison, yet they have not dealt with the efficiency. So that they are making the president feel that even if you look at the transition into the substantive bit of the NHIF to SHA, you know, the expectation would be, now that we are paying more, then the services must be more. That will be a different fight.
Yeah.
We can't get yet there.
Let the patient...
Let's first start with the fact that can it work?
Yes, we have the Houses of Parliament, and that is my next concern.
Just a minute.
No. Madam Elachi.
Yes.
You are a member of this National Assembly.
Yeah.
You advise... You have a committee of health within the National Assembly,
which I'm very disappointed.
Your party now supports the government of the day.
On health.
No, I'll go there because you I've been told in this panel that you are a strong pillar of support for this government. Now, how come you're still talking about the lack of information getting to the president? How come you've not raised this issue of a proper rollout and a proper registration? Because even as a member of parliament, these affects you directly. It is your constituents.
Not just directly. Yesterday, I had women from one of my wards, all of them who are elderly, who I had given NHIF, all of them came and asked me, we need to get a desk. This message, how do I now get my card? And so, I did promise them by next week, I need to walk into this SHA and ask them, can you give me a team? And I'm allowing you to have my office. I need you to sit in the constituency and every person to just come who received your message to be told what they need to do. If they need now to pay the money, how are they paying? Is it through M-Pesa? Is it through what? All those things. But then the other thing is I am one person who was very, very disappointed with the health committee. And so when you tell me health committee in parliament, they were fighting about 104 billion, which you can imagine, if you have bought such a good system, why is it we are in this? I thought they integrated, like for example, you want to tell me all the elderly who have been given monies, who are normally paid by government through the Ministry of Labour, all those vulnerable people and they have NHIF, you could not integrate them correctly because their information now is more better than even the information that we used to have for NHIF. So that 1 million elderly people with the vulnerable ones would have just integrated if this system indeed is a system they are talking about. But then having said that, it is true, and I'll tell you, and I'll repeat, and I'll tell the president, on this one, Your Excellency, they have lied to you outright. And because you are the one who looked for the vote, these ones are just, you have given them an opportunity and a privilege to serve. Just listen to what the voters are saying. We are saying we are willing, even in 2 weeks, give us an opportunity. We just need to have community health workers. We need to have 1 person or 2 from the ministry or from this authority to come in each constituency and tell us, and we will bring everyone and people will come. We will do per ward, let us register. The remaining ones now will have understood the process.
Who will be much fewer.
We can put even a few of our young people and they will have a phone. In fact, if this was a system of the phone and they tell us and they come and train for us, right now young people have closed school. We have Form 4s who are finishing. We will train them the same way they normally do bursary. They will come and do everything. Okay. They
if
just need
maybe one comment on that.
Yes.
Maybe one comment, just for fair comment. One, I realize the government officials are speaking from 2 sides of the mouth. They acknowledge the problem somehow, but they downplay it. So I would propose the comms to be different.
Are they not downplaying a lot of other problems away from even the health issues as well? Because we're talking about the university funding model, that a lot of university students or people who had qualified to go for university have even chosen not to pursue that because the new university funding model is still mired in confusion. The CBC
but
transition.
let me just say this.
So that's why
you'll answer in collectively.
Yes.
When the president says that the criticism towards his government is propaganda, are we saying that he's totally out of touch with all these problems? That his people are failing?
Because of
I have 2 answers
that advised him.
I have 2 answers to that. True, the government at the moment is not the darling of the people when it comes to their policy rollout, or just, I think it's a spillover of the Gen Z protest. The anger, the public anger and outrage with the economic challenges and all that, I don't think it died down. It just became now toxic in a way that I've realized anything the government speaks of, if you just monitor social media reaction, it's a hit.
Are you saying it's not justified, the criticism?
Let me come to that. I'm saying first thing first, you need to see the bias when it comes. You see, if I have a problem with you, it doesn't matter what you do. That is one. If I
think that's what they are facing.
If I don't want you, whatever you do, I will fight it. So first thing first, that then calls the comms team to now start seeing the nuances. So how do you address that? The moment you find a toxic, negative environment where something even that may not be 100% factual, selling more. Like, let me give an example, and just to show you that level of anger. A post online circulated where the South African President Ramaphosa had declared that they are not going to support as SADC, the candidate of Raila Odinga. Rather, they are supporting the Djiboutian candidate. That was a totally fake thing. But it went so much so round, almost picked by mainstream media as a true statement, which never happens when it comes to such cases. They never speak about in the media. So what that does tell you, the environment we are working in. So that being the case, the government officials under the president then are not doing the president justice by now being the front line. I feel that the president has been exposed to be now the real person communicating it. It's supposed to be the, especially this one, for example, if it's about university funding model, the Ministry of Education guys kind of show the president all the way until when it boomerang. That's when you can see walking back, where you say, now let's put a commission, let's walk back and see. Because the voices were there, and you could see the president struggling and going out of his way to even organize a town hall with student leaders at State House, at different institutions. What was the idea? By the time he was doing that, maybe the brief he'd been given, it's just a question of comms. No. Take it seriously. The moment you have a national program that is momentous and it's a change, and remember, in a governance setup, any change brings 50-50. Some will totally reject, some will happily accept. But in a toxic environment we're in at the moment, and with a political fight, for example, even impeachment of the deputy president, then you are sure that everyone, the perceived supporters of Rigathi, will come at this and use anything at their disposal to fight. So for me, it's a question of taking. Listen.
Is that an example? Are you saying that it's only supporters of the deputy?
No. I'm just saying, for example, I'm not reducing, but I'm saying those will be the low-hanging fruits that will start hitting. Then it will spread. So for me, I would want to say, first thing first, let the team take it candidly and say, we accept the challenges. I was reading how the ministry was saying the kind of issues. Don't make it appear as if it's small. He said, yeah, there was issues with dialysis, but we have dealt with it. No, say, we understand we have administrative problems, we are bringing in the MPs, and that's why look at the measures they have taken. It is acknowledgement of the problem. Why? They are now forming counting committees. They have said they have done...
Don't need those.
Number two, they've said they have done 10 billion release out of the 30 billion, because the hospitals, both at the community level, the mission hospital and the referral hospital, had said that their biggest problem with the new transition is the pending bill from NHIF. Now government has given 10. Number three, you see the PS going out at the regional level, at the county level, trying to form committees. They say they have signed up to a 26 agreement with the Council of Governors. So you see them working backwards. I wish at the first instance they would have said, yes, we've been caught swimming. Now, these are the measures we are going to do, and take the people through.
The problems are shared are the same across the country. This is not a regional issue.
Let me say this.
It's not coming just from critics of this administration.
No.
The complaints are from all over.
The critics are the forefront, then the rest will come in. But let's
for me, let's go back to the university model. It worked in the first year. We never discussed it, remember. We've discussed it when we are coming to the second year of the model, and that is where something somewhere just went wrong again with the whole team that planned, that was just handling the thing. But the first students who started with the model, you remember they took the model and they moved on. The
complaints have been the entire year that the rollout of this new university funding model actually locked out enough students.
In fact, you also as media, I wish we started when the first one, because this is the second time we are doing that model. Remember, it was the first years who are now second years did the first one, isn't it? They had their, yes, this is not the first one. This is the second. Second years have already tested the first. The mistake the ministry did and help was now to come in and just change everything and start now showing, oh, we will do this when it reaches. That's where the whole problem. And then those who started with the model were wondering, so if I'm band 3 and that time you gave me of band 4, how are you refunding me money for this band? All those things. And that is where the quagmire is. But then in the end of the day, even now, if we have agreed there was a problem, and I'm hoping now the university student leaders have come up now with their paper after going through, and because they were told by the president, do a paper, explain what you need. For me, if I'm asked, just remove band 4 and 5, bring all students who can do and afford and everything into band 3 and retain band 1 for all. Absolutely.
Should we be doing that at this stage? The fact that the government already has a plan,
now that we have
government policy, and rolling out such a huge radical change in a very significant sector, health or education.
Yes.
Surely there should be better planning.
Exactly. Now because we didn't plan, what are we supposed to do?
Just leave it. Hence the question. Is the president right in saying that the criticism towards his government is propaganda? Are in these real issues that affect real and actually the most crucial sectors of the society, education and health?
Now, I will say this. If I am a leader, you've come, you have a team, they have told you, definitely you will defend your team, even if you know that your team has done wrong, you will defend it. But in the inside, I believe, I'm hoping he's dealing with it. How he came out and said that, I don't want to...
Because if he believes it's pure propaganda, then he believes that nothing needs to be done, that everything is okay.
No. That's why we are also here to make that system work. Because in the end of the day, the Economic Council will not be in 290 constituencies. In the end of the day, it is us who carry the bigger burden than them. They finish, they throw it down. Whether it works, it is for us now. Every day you find all those complaints, and you have to work on it, because you're also a leader. You're also you have to ensure things work in your constituency. And that's why I am pleading with the PS, and I'm telling him that process you have started, a committee and a committee and a committee on people on health matters, please just stop it. And just come and use the community health workers who are much better. They sleep every day. Today, if I call a community health worker in Dagoretti North, she will tell me my 100 households, they slept well, we lacked food, we lacked medication for one who is either HIV positive or who is diabetic or who is cancer. We have, and they are now, she will tell you, she will give you that upright information. So why would you have a good structure to deal with SHA, and then now you go and tell me at the county commissioner? Now my county commissioner in Nairobi will have to manga in 17 constituencies using the chief. The chief, even in Nairobi, maybe doesn't sleep even where he works. He sleeps somewhere else, he comes in the morning. Why can't we use the structure of community health workers? Bring them in every constituency's office, let them work there, bring us now. Let us start with Nairobi, because we are closer to this office of SHA, and see how it works in the 17 constituencies.
It's been 30 days already.
And that is why,
this is the argument we're having.
Actually, this is an indictment of our governance model. It's a clear indictment from a key supporter of county governments. It just tells you we've not achieved true devolution as expected, because health was supposed to be a primary issue of county governments. Number two, once you have a national program that cuts across county and national, because we are still one republic. One thing I want to agree with Mheshimiwa, that's why I say the missing component of inclusivity of the political class. Why is that very critical? Because they are the custodian of people's interest. You know something you need to understand about political culture? Our political culture has it that the politician, right from MCA to president, people at the constituency level, at the ward level, always know that Mheshimiwa knows everything and is the solution to everything.
I know.
Let me give you a very fun fact. Kenyans at the local level do not care about MP, governor, senator, wherever they will get an hold on a Mheshimiwa. So even though I'm pushing hard and saying county governments must come in hard, you cannot ignore the place of MPs, because once Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi goes, just lands in her constituency, the time Mheshimiwa, dialysis is not working, what is the problem? She will not start saying, oh, it's a county function. She will roll up her sleeves and say, okay, give me the number. Because even look at success of NHIF, because they integrated MPs and the county governments. When MPs tell you, they set up a desk that ran hand in hand with their own, so that you'll find in one place, NHIF is doing its registration, you find Mheshimiwa distributing her bursary. So collectively, they are giving solutions to the persons. Why is it so? Because remember, the previous regime came with the idea of trying to ensure every Kenyan household has an NHIF card.
Yeah.
And it went through politics, because I was a speaker at that time. It was the platform where the county governments and the National Assembly members and senators would sit. That was sure, because a senator would come say, government has given NHIF, please register. We are setting up this in my office. MPs would say, constituency offices, ward offices, as we're doing this, I have agreed with NHIF, they're going to set up a shop. So that was the approach, and that is the approach I agree with her. And for me, I want the county governments to push hard, because one of the signature programs of the president was to ensure primary health care is available to all, and it was through community health workers. And Parliament has done its job in funding the last 2 years in a big way, that kind of a structure. Why don't you bring it to life where they do door to door? If we can spend, imagine 40 billion in an electoral process where the voter registration, because I participated in that process, in a month, they will sit in one space, but within that 1 month, 2 weeks, they'll go door to door. And you'll find them getting, because they have a target, say we want everyone registered as a voter. The campaigns will run, and these people will be physically there.
Everyone is waiting.
And they even extend to show you how serious, and it's only 40B. I want the president to take it as more or less an emergency situation kind of a statement, where you go flat out, actually kick out your official and tell them there's no more statements in offices. Let us fight it out in the
climate change.
I would be happy. Let me show you one of the good optics. I see the PS here speaking with the regional commissioners and what have you in one of the pages of the dailies. I would be very happy if this was a photo of the PS in the background of a hospital. Did you see the expose on Mama Lucy? That is the best place they can communicate and say, we understand the problems. And that is where you bring in the county government and the national government. Right. So you find the PS is there, the governor is there, the health departments at the county and the national level are there. They all say, we see the problem, and even solve the problem there and say, we've noted that the problem is here and we assure you in the next 1 week, and tell the media, hold us accountable within this period of time. I tell you, the president even doesn't need to speak. For him, I want him to sell the agenda, because at the end of the day, it is a noble idea. Okay. The idea is to expand NHIF.
It is how you do it.
It is how now they're doing it. And that is the rigor mortis now of the people below.
Let's focus on the cartoons today. They look, the 3 cartoons that we have focus on 3 different issues that I'd want us to talk about briefly. We start off with the one on the Daily Nation, and it's on page 15. It talks about the export of labor. At the weekend, we saw over 97,000 Kenyans show up in Nairobi for interviews, hoping to secure vacancies for jobs in Qatar. Apparently, the only available number of vacancies were 8,000. Meanwhile, people in Qatar are saying that's a lie. There are no jobs in Qatar. They're even struggling, but at least according to our labor ministry, there are jobs in Qatar. So the cartoonist on the Daily Nation, Iga, says, he has a caricature. These are the airport. The plane is ready, just ready to take off. Meanwhile, there's a labor office, but behind the labor office are closed boda boda and mama mboga shops. So it means that the economic situation is so bad, it's forcing boda boda and mama mbogas to close shop. And these are the same people who are now being exported to Qatar. On this issue of export of labor, Madam Elachi, do you really think that this is the best way to handle it? That we've made it so difficult here in Kenya that now the only option is everyone wants to leave the country?
Well, first I would say we would have wished. You see, one of the things we have refused to appreciate, even all of us, even in media, is that post-COVID hit every country, post-COVID. And because we did not put in a good program to come and stimulate back all these entrepreneurs who are young entrepreneurs, people who are doing their own startup jobs, and they were closed. And we have also, as a people, come in and then strained it so much on taxes and all that. And that's why we are facing what we are facing. Now, having said that, I would say that we've been having labor jobs in this country for many years. The way it was done that time, remember it was through agents. Most of us only know about the domestic jobs, but these other jobs have been there, even in the ministry. We've sent many people through the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the nurses who used to go, but we did it in a very different way, where there was some dignity. And now, because we have so many young people who have gone through education, they are learned and they are wondering, what do I do next? Now, this is a job that can work, yes, in the crisis that we are facing, because everyone will want to have a job, but then they need to change how they are doing it. And for me, if it is a job that you know it's a job, it's not a white-collar job. It means any person can go for this job. And by the way, when the interviewers are there, which I know many Kenyans never, they don't know, when you're called, we have not just their agents. You find there are people who have come from those companies. They are just seated there. And they look at so many things. And that is one thing we were trying to ask ourselves. How do we now push the Ministry of Labor to have somewhere where you try and take through these young people, what these people, this is, for example, like on the weekend when I saw the young people at Kabete. So they were saying these are jobs where we are going to wash toilets, where we are going to do this. Yes, But then it is not that washing of a toilet of a Kenyan style. Remember, whether you are abroad, it is the most paying job than the white collar job. So you have to do it with a lot of dignity. And so before he comes there and he's feeling frustrated, I went to school and now I'm going for this job. Just take them through. Put them somewhere for 2 weeks and explain to them, when you're going for this interview, these are the issues that you're going to find. This is the type of the organization. This is what they do, where you are going. All that, because these are not now the domestic workers' jobs that you're going. These are jobs for supermarket. And that is why sometimes we have very many who come and they decide themselves to go and pick people from supermarkets without even announcing. We've had many who have come. They have taken guards. They have decided they normally now go to the security firms and request. So because they've realized when you put it the way this was put, you have so many people who come, but you don't have the passion of that job. You're just going because you need a job and you have nothing to do. So even those companies are changing tactics. The other day, we had a company here from the US. They were picking nurses. And they were very strict. They were only picking those who right now are working in public hospitals in Kenya. And very strict. And you have to go through a very thorough exam, 9 of them. So you start with this, and then you will have to do another one and another one. And they have finished, they are going.
Question is, can that be done in a better way?
Yes, that's why I'm saying
her proposal is basically the structure.
The structure.
Which in this case is, how do you make it easy?
And
I think the bit here is, I would really empathize with the Labour CS. He really wants to show that he's doing something. He really wants to take credit
public
for
optics.
this. Yeah, public optics. And you know, Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua is a PR expert. So you would understand why he's left, right, front, center of this.
Isn't that part of the weakness in government communication?
It may be a
wait, to the gallery.
It can be a plus if it is working.
Right.
So it is that how it works. It can be a plus it can be a plus if it's working, because you take the credit and you put government in good space. No issue about that. I will not even fault that. My issue would be what she has said. Why don't you use established working structures, be creative enough? I think the issue with the government, which is my proposal for the government to now 2 years in office should see, there's no one who can do it all by himself. There's no one who knows it all. There's no monopoly of knowledge. There's no monopoly of experience. However, you harness the knowledge and experience out there in the field. Be open to new ideas, be open to be corrected as you start. They can start a rollout of whatever they are doing, but it is not cut on stone that whatever they're doing is 100%. That's why there's that bit of tone deaf, right from the advisors and all the way down to the bureaucrats. So the best thing would be, it is good for them to calm down. And as Mheshimiwa has said, look at that aspect of labor. We already have these labor agencies. Who licenses them? Government. And they have been in place for quite a long time. It's only now there is now more movement of people out, because government policy under the presidency of William Ruto has been open borders, let them go. And that's why you would see as a policy, Dr. William Ruto came up with the idea of, let's only be doing open borders in our airport, where someone only pays the $50 and visa on arrival or through that process. Why? Because it's a two-way traffic. In as much as he's accepting easily for people to come into Kenya, is the same way he would want the same to happen for Kenyans going out. So the principle and the expectation is noble, with an idea, because we are facing an economic challenge of a bulge of labor. We have a very educated population, young population, energetic, but it's a ticking time bomb if they're not given an outlet. And government cannot sit. That's why I'll give them credit for that. They'll not sit and wait that up to the time things work for us internally here, let's just sit waiting. For them, whatever sticks. And for me, that's my philosophy. You throw everything at the wall until whatever sticks and works. However, be open to ideas and be flexible. I'm very happy to hear that bit of, for example, if you are recruiting, the best sample is to use is that one that Mheshimiwa has used. If you're going for example, for guards, don't recreate, don't reinvent the wheel. Go for the same security companies, and there are a plethora. I sit in a procurement review board where there are so many cases about these security companies when they bid for work, and they compete, and there are so many. Almost every day, every office has a security company that has, in fact, you can pass through a neighborhood and you find people doing frog march. Then when you find out they're actually being trained to be guards for a particular company. That already is a very easy, low-hanging channel for the Ministry of Labor to say, we are using through this. Why? It would save them the time, it would ensure quality, and it will make them easily comply with what the labor market out there is working. So that they just go straight to the companies, then the companies continue recruiting. So you have a conveyor belt. So that you have people, not everyone wants to go. But by virtue, those that are already trained that would want to go, when they leave, they create space for this one. It's a win-win for everyone. That's when the labor CS can now stand in front of the camera and say, it is working, it is happening. So same thing applies.
So no credit before the job.
Even for the nurses, I remember that was the challenge. You remember, maybe Mheshimiwa can give us this. I don't know if you remember when you were called for your PG, I think mostly for the Kenya Kwanza team in State House. And I remember the president saying, MPs, you need to step up, where we have a nurses program that we've asked up to this point between 2 to 3 per every ward or constituency. And the MPs were in uproar. They say, where is that? We've never seen it. We don't know. And you could see the disconnect. Because the parliamentarians are saying, we have thousands of nurses in our desks. We've sponsored them through KMTC because it's our bursary. So MPs have a database.
So clearly there's a disconnect about how the government is rolling out all its
It is about coordinative aspect of governance. So that once you tie down on the coordinative, things work. And for me, my only advice is, as advisors, be open to listen.
Let's focus on the cartoon on page 10 of the Standard, because it's on the same thing.
Let me just say this on Philippines, because it's important for Kenya to know you have also other competitors on the same. You might think it's only here. Tanzania is doing the same. Uganda, not so much, but Tanzania. Philippines is the best model of how they structure their people who go out there. And they use their NYS. Any person who has gone through their structured NYS of Philippines are the ones who are given the first opportunity to go for these jobs.
So we have very good examples.
For them, it is you take the nationality of your country and your patriotism. So you keep the name of your country. That's
Philippines
what
is huge.
Okay. As we continue, let's focus now on the cartoon on the Standard, page 10. And probably this is where Kenyans would have expected that with these failures of this government, then comes in this messianic help that has held the pillars of this administration, and that's none other than the Great Orange Democratic Movement that has been criticizing this government for quite a while, and pointed out the weaknesses, suggested the solutions. Now they have an opportunity to get close and actually inside this administration. But then things change. We have a caricature of one of your colleague members of parliament from ODM. You always say that when you finally find your face being caricatured by a cartoonist, then you've actually made it. Peter Kaluma can sit pretty and say he's made it today. He's on the cartoon on the Standard. So back then, when he was a strong critic of the government, he said, we have to speak truth to power on the same issues that we are talking about. ODM has done that. Now, we have the power, so I speak the truth.
I have an answer to that. ODM is a very interesting party. And we normally analyze party from a political lens. One of the problems Kenyans do, I always see, when they analyze politics of parties and coalitions, is they look it from a moral perspective. I'll disappoint them today.
Too much,
Good, I'm going to disappoint you today. The role of political parties is to have influence. Don't forget that. Bare minimum, influence. Why? If your movement has influence, you can influence policy for the benefit of your constituents. And in that space, I want to give ODM a thumbs up or a credit for something very critical. Have you realized they have totally eclipsed the Kenya Kwanza team in National Assembly? Literally. There are actually two sides now. ODM is speaking powerfully in opposition. That's why Beatrice Elachi would speak very powerfully about, I have a problem with the health committee. She'll speak against Shah and say, this needs to be done, this is not the right, Mr. President, you have to do this. But at the same time, you find them now, the rank and file, for example, you'll find Kalumas and the rest in this, within the same parliament, speaking boldly. Actually, I've followed their speech the last 2-3 weeks. ODM has been saying, we need to stabilize the government. We are here to stabilize the government for it to deliver. And when critics come at them and told them, but you were the one, he said, did we vote for the government? We didn't. In fact, they say, We give you a manifesto. We give you a basis for to choose our side of divide. You didn't. Now, because you did, stick to it. For us, we are here to stabilize and make things work. So the one thing from a purely political aspect, they have become a consequential unit for the remaining 3 years.
There's a difference between positive criticism and direct support of issues that they criticized before, including the Aidani deals. You look at these members of parliament and we have records of them criticizing and calling out the government on the Aidani deals. Now we have tweets with them supporting the same.
That's what I've said.
Is that positive criticism?
Fred, have you noticed that it's a mix? It's a bag of mixture? Because you still find ODM MP speaking harshly of that. Have you seen, for example, Senator Onyonka and the rest?
Criticism.
It's not about numbers. It's just a question. And that's why, for me, I say, on the political thing, they check. They have become consequential in this administration. They become consequential in the politics. Actually, the politics of 2027 will be determined by 2 formations. The formation around the President William Ruto and core formation around ODM.
Beatrice Elachi, now you're wearing the yellow and green of, according to the cartoonist, of UDA.
Okay, according to the Standard.
The cartoon on the Standard.
But let me ask, and this is my opinion, not a party or anything. What did the media want after 25th of June? Did you want us to go the Sudan way? Did you want us to close all these things and be talking on the streets as you take and give it to the international media? What did we want for our country? Because for me, I talk today and I always tell myself, 25th of June, God said we will still live. We were supposed to die, I thought so, according to many. That bunge, people must have died and be buried today, and we should have moved on as a country. Now I want Kenyans to imagine, we died. What would be the country then?
But we've seen other instances where people have come out and expressed their disapproval of governments, even changed governments, and their life continues. Exactly. Why was it an
That's what I'm saying.
June 25th?
That is because now I didn't die. See, I need to change. Are you forgetting that? And become even more harder. You hardened me. People forget you hardened. So here is Kaluma now, hardened, because he realized, oh, all these things we say and all these things we are doing, either way, Kenyans doesn't approve whether you are in opposition, whether you said no to a finance bill, whether you said yes. That Kenyans didn't care. So now here we are trying to say, after that, we would want to see a government that is functioning, not for us, for everyone and for the future. And because you have realized, if we are not also together to make this country be stable and move where it is supposed to go, definitely we will find ourselves in the worst. I have always said, look at Kenya, look at East Africa, and ask yourself, what is the problem with Kenya? Tanzania is moving. They do politics. They are about to go and do politics. They finish. They imagine, they know there's time for politics, economics, and taking care of our country to be stable.
Okay.
Rwanda, the same. Uganda, even if you hate Museveni, how? Ugandans will tell you, we need Museveni. We know what it means when a country goes down. Whether Museveni is bad, but let us first, because we are trying to think how we are moving in the transition of Museveni. What next?
Fred,
but then for us in Kenya, if indeed we have come and we are saying, and by the way, our party leader stood, we are in ODM, we are there to criticize government, very well, but we are there to tell also the same government that, look, Kenya is one, and Kenya cannot just go down because others have.
We're not hearing the criticism even when things go wrong. It is actually
it is.
We criticize. We criticize.
I will be the devil's advocate.
It will be very unfair to say that we don't criticize. We do criticize.
Maybe you speak about uniformity. What you had before was a uniform criticism from across the rank and file of not just ODM but Azimio coalition. It was an entire, and you know, we are doing a 50-50 kind of a political space where the Azimio has 50%, the other team has 50%. That is the reality of our politics. And Fred, this is one thing I want to focus our viewers to note. Let's now do politics one-on-one. Kenya from 2013 became a bipolar country politically. That a winner and a loser will only have 2-3% difference. And have you seen the narrowing of the gap? 2013, Uhuru won by more than around 300,000-400,000.
Yes.
When it came to 2017, it was virtually non-existent. In fact, I think it was around 800,000 in 2013, came down to 500,000. In 2022, 180,000. That 50 plus 1 is achieved through 26,000 votes. Yeah. Literally, half or a quarter of her constituency can dictate presidency. Yeah. Have you seen the American politics at the moment? 7 to 8 states will decide who becomes the president. Yeah. It will be Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and that's why you see Kamala and Trump are just oscillating within. They're no longer doing their traditional their states. These 7-8 states will make or break. Now, Kenya is firmly there. Ghana is one example we can look up to. It's only that Ghana, you have a duopoly of 2 parties. But in Kenya, you'll always have 50-50. I'm actually predicting in 2027 a runoff may be likely.
Oh, definitely.
Because we've narrowed the gap between the winner and the loser
and
to the point.
And the counties will determine who will be the president.
So at the end of the day, there will be always blurry lines and parties will be moving. Now we should be in fact, we should be now ready for what we call coalition politics in governance, not in politics, in governance. French, the Italians, in the European kind of elections, governments fall within 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. In fact, an opposition leader becomes
we only have about
minister.
2 minutes, so last
so because of that, my final then would be, let us wake up and smell the coffee. We are now in coalition governance. It used to be coalition politics, but post-22 and after post-Gen Z, when Gen Z says we are leaderless and everything, they are forgetting that the politicians were waiting in the wings. Now that we have a case of coalition politics, that one is not going away. Now it becomes part and parcel of our governance where people will be switching sides. That Opio Ondai today will be minority leader. In 6 months, he becomes a minister. He shifts again this way, and it's about influence and control of the narrative and policy. So for me, that is it. But importantly, one more comment. I think it's a call-up for both the government and the people. For the people, where there is something good done, give it credit. But at the same time, for governance, it has to accept it is not just partisan criticism on agendas and policies. Go through, listen, walk away from the offices, go to the field. At the moment, the most critical is the health concern because it affects everyone. Go out to the field. Whatever they are doing now, we acknowledge. That's why you see the PS every day saying we are doing this and that. That's a good thing. However, do more and make it more inclusive. MPs, county governments, embed them, let them speak, and let the media be engaged firmly on this, so that as we go to November, December, it should be done. Thank you very much.
Finally,
for me, I think one, ODM, we will still criticize government. As the papers say, ODM or UDA deal, ours is a deal to ensure Kenya is stable and government is working for the people. But for me, as we come back into parliament, I am hoping, we've just finished a recess, how I wish the ministry had used us when we are on recess to do this. But I think I'll go back, and we have to go back in parliament. As members of parliament, within 1 week, can we put in desks in the 290 constituencies, call upon this Ministry of Health, go to the constituencies, let citizens come to their constituencies' offices to apply this thing of SHA properly. Let every person live there knowing, if I'm in SHA, is it a number I'm given? Is it something on my phone? And those who don't have phones, are they supposed to use their ID cards as it? And that will help everyone. And we must make sure as members of parliament, these two models, the university model and the SHA model, must work before we go to the long recess. That when we are going to Christmas, we know in January we will not go through these challenges again.
Thank you so much, Beatrice Alachi, MP Dagoretti North, and Joshua Kipto, Advocate of the High Court. Both of them have also served as speakers of County Assembly of Nairobi and Nandi, respectively. Thank you so much for your time at TV47 and for helping us understand the issues that face this country. After the break, matters relationship, sponsors error. Is it love or money?